Hello everyone. As we continue discussing the question answers of Civics Chapter 2, what is democracy, why democracy, today we're going to have a look at the questions which were left. I did half of them in the last class, and today we're going to complete this chapter's question answers, and then I will start on with the question answers of history, chapter 1, the French Revolution. Now, question 6. Also remember, there may be a difference in these question and answers. There may be a few extra questions that I've given you in the worksheet, but you shouldn't have a problem finding the answers. In case you do, please get in touch with me. Write 3 arguments against democracy. This sort of a question can also be asked as write 3 arguments not in favor of democracy. The arguments against democracy are leaders keep changing in a democracy, which leads to instability. How? Well, basically, we've seen that every 5 years in a democracy, elections are held and the government changes. The government may not also change, but in case the government does change, you'll notice how a lot of times certain rules and regulations are changed. So, one argument against democracy is that this changing of government every 5 years creates a lot of instability and confusion. Another argument. So many people have to be consulted in a democracy that leads to delays. Now, we know in a democracy a lot of representatives are elected by the people. Because there are so many representatives and they all have to be consulted while making a decision, it leads to confusion, and it also leads to delays. There's a saying, too many cooks spoil the broth, which means there are just too many people discussing and debating and delaying things. So that is not a very good thing about democracy. Next point. Elected leaders do not know the best interest of the people. It leads to bad decisions. Now, this says that a lot of times elected representatives think that they know what people want, but a lot of times that's not the truth. Democracy is all about political competition and power play. There is no scope for morality. This is an important point because a lot of times you'll see during election campaigns, although there is an election commission, which is a body which takes care of elections and sees that elections are held in a free and fair manner. A lot of times, because there's a lot of corruption and there's so much of competition between people standing for elections and between political parties, that unmoral means are used. And so they say, one argument against democracy, another argument is that there is no scope for morality. Now, before I move into another question, please remember what we discussed right now are arguments which say that democracy is not very good. However, in our next question, we're going to have a look at arguments which say that no matter its flaws, democracy is still the best form of government we can have, seeing all the other options that we do. So next question, what are the arguments in favor of democracy, or how would you argue for democracy? The arguments in favor of democracy are: a democratic government is a better government because it is a more accountable form of government. Remember, elections are held every 5 years, and if the government does not work for the people can choose to remove it from power. And that is why the government in power is accountable to the people and will make sure that it works for the welfare of the people so that the people choose it again. So democracy, with its elections, makes the government accountable to the people. Democracy provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts. Now, because you have so many people as representatives in a democracy, they will all sit and discuss things. Discussing things, debating things is good because then you can come to a conclusion about what everyone wants and you can follow a path that makes everyone happy, rather than not having a discussion and then doing anything you want and realizing people are not very happy with it. Democracy enhances the dignity of the citizens. It enhances the dignity of the citizens because at the end of the day, the citizens know that if things don't work in their favor, they can always choose to remove the government from power. The voting rights enable the citizens to much more power than their representatives. Democracy is better than other forms of government because it allows us to correct its own mistakes. Now, how does it allow people to correct their own mistakes? Because they are accountable. Elections will happen, people can remove them from power. So the government knows that in case it even does anything wrong, it always has a chance of making things better. Next, there are a few case studies in this chapter, so please pay attention to them. Were there free and fair elections in Mexico? Mexico was ruled by a president since its independence. It has never been under military or dictator rule till 2000. However, every election, there used to be elections, but they were always won by this one party called PRI. There were opposition parties, but they never managed to win because PRI used many dirty tricks to win elections. Now, this is important because just because you say that elections are happening in a country, it's democratic. No, it cannot be democratic until and unless there is an opposition, which means people have to have an option to choose from. Here, there are opposition parties, see, but the PRI used such dirty tricks and methods to win elections that it was not a proper democracy. Let's see the tricks that PRI used. Government school teachers used to force parents to vote for the PRI. Government used to force their employees to attend party meetings and vote for them. Now, in your school, when we have PTMs, no one is going to tell your parents who they should vote for, right? When I am teaching you, I am not going to tell you who to vote for when you become an adult. What I am going to do as a teacher is that I am going to make you aware. I am going to make you aware of things that are right, things that are wrong, what the governments have done, and then you can choose who to vote for. But here, PRI in Mexico was forcing people to vote for them. Media had to ignore opposition parties and criticize them. This is an important point because democracy's foundation is based on a free media, on free speech. It is proper journalism that gets out the problems of the government and makes people aware. But what's happening in Mexico? In Mexico, only the opposition parties used to be attacked. Only the opposition parties used to be criticized. No one criticized the PRI ever. And that's wrong. People seem to have a choice. See, they seemed to have a choice. It's written, there's opposition and there's so many things happening. So they seemed to have a choice. But in practice, they had none. There was no way the ruling party could be defeated even if people were against it. These are not fair elections that are supposed to happen in a democracy. Okay, so that gets us to an end of chapter 2 for civics, which is what is democracy, why democracy. Chapter 1 is not in the syllabus, so don't worry about it. I'm once again repeating, I sent you the worksheet for this chapter long back, and I also shared the answers in the PDF format. Now, however, in these 2 lessons, we've discussed the question answers. In the next few lessons, I will be discussing the question answers of History Chapter 1, the French Revolution. Don't worry, for that also I have already shared the worksheet much before, and I will now be sharing with you the answers for French Revolution in a PDF format. Over this week, we will be aiming to finish these 2 chapters, not just by studying them, but also finishing all their work, because these are the 2 chapters that are going to come in our first unit test. Please feel free to get in touch with me in case you have any queries. A lot of you have already finished your work, and very well done, all of you. And those who haven't, please take help of the answers and ask me in case there's any problem. Thank you.